This is Jellycode, and we will be discussing how to make a roguelike game.
Now, our tutorial is gonna have an overview. First is what is a roguelike, and next is on chapter 2, which is gonna be discussed by Chloe Camacho. We're gonna discuss how to create menus and scenes and how to utilize it when creating this type of game, like how to make a start menu, pause menu, game over screen, and an upgrade menu. Then on to chapter 3, which is the level layout. Here, we're gonna discuss how spawn points work, how to create the levels, and how different spawning mechanic works, and the different enemy types that could be spawned in that level. Next is chapter 4. This is where we're gonna go in depth with player movements and player projectile animations, where the player will attack the enemies when it sees, or the closest enemy it sees, it will attack, and how we will create upgrades for whenever a wave is done, you get an upgrade, and then so on and so forth until you game is over. And chapter 5, we're going to be covering how enemy AI works, how the enemy would chase you, attack you, and have melee range attacks for them to determine where you are in the plane and then attack you on how close you are depending on those. And on chapter 6, we're gonna be discussing on how upgrades and power-ups work. And then on chapter 7 is audio and animation, how we code and place the animation to determine whether we're pressing A or D on the keyboard. And then on chapter 8 is a full gameplay.
What is roguelike? Roguelike is a genre of games that makes use of the core mechanics of failing and trying again, with each attempt being unique due to a randomness factor per playthrough.
Now, the example of what the roguelike game we would be playing is like Holocure, Rotato, and Vampire Survivors, where the more you get into the game, the more you play it, the more upgrades you'll have, and so on, rather than having a upgrade outside the game, and then when you go back to the game, you're gonna have those upgrades, and so on. Now, onto the showcase, which is here. And on to the next showcase, which is Holocure. And then, lastly, Vampire Survivors. Now, these are the games that we'll be basing off on what we're gonna create on our game.
Now, introducing our game, Frog Ninja Curse of the Juicy Horde is a roguelike horde survival game where players battle waves of enemies, facing multiple foes simultaneously. To progress, players must survive with enough health or defeat all enemies before the wave ends. This game is created by Jellycode to introduce and discuss to you the basic components needed to create a roguelike game. This game, Frog Ninja, has an open world environment to allow players to move around freely, a 2-level layout to show a normal level and a boss level where the boss appears every 5th wave, and lastly, the player and enemy movement with basic in-game components and abilities. Next up, Chapter 2, where we would see how the menu screens and scenes would work in our roguelike game called Frog Ninja Curse of the Juicy Horde.